If I had just gone to bed then, it might have dragged on for years, but I saw something that made the world split in two. It's strange how quickly your world can shift from quiet normalcy to something you can't quite name yet, but feel in your gut like the tremor before a quake. For me, it started on a Tuesday night, just a regular, forgettable kind of evening. Or at least, it should have been. Claire was already home when I walked in. That wasn't unusual. She'd been working from home a lot lately, or so she said. The living room light was on, casting a soft glow across the hardwood floor, and the TV was playing some crime drama with the volume down low. At first glance, everything looked ordinary. But then I saw her. She was slumped on the couch, one arm dangling off the side, the other curled around a half-empty bottle of vodka. Not wine, vodka. That hit me right away. Claire treated wine like it was part of some ancient ceremony. Sniff, swirl, sip, talk about the legs and then notes of plum, or whatever. She never drank hard liquor. Not at home. Not alone. The bottle was tipped on its side, its contents soaking into the throw blanket she'd gotten on our anniversary trip to Asheville. The stench of alcohol was sharp-biting. Her mascara had run down both cheeks, leaving dark streaks across skin that usually looked composed and polished. Her phone was clenched in her hand, like she was afraid to let it go even in sleep, or whatever this was. I crouched down beside her, trying to wake her gently. "Claire," I said. No response. Her breathing was steady, at least. I eased the phone from her hand so I could plug it in. Instinct more than anything. And as the screen lit up, a message popped into view. "You were wild tonight. Same time tomorrow. No name. Just a number." I stared at the message longer than I needed to, my thumb hovering over the screen. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. That one line was enough to make my stomach twist. Something primal stirred in my chest. Anger, confusion, fear, but mostly that awful sense of not knowing what was happening right in front of me. She told me she was working late. Lately, that had become the go-to line. Late meeting. Last-minute client dinner. We're brainstorming new concepts. At first, I believed her. Claire was ambitious. She'd always been driven. Marketing exec, sharp dresser, a kind of intensity in the way she moved through a room. But this wasn't the Claire I knew. The woman passed out on our couch, reeking of vodka, wasn't the same person who once color-coded our spice rack and made kale chips for fun. I didn't sleep much that night. Just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady tick of the old wall clock in our bedroom. Funny how loud silence can get when your mind is chewing itself up. I kept replaying the message, reading into every word. Wild tonight. Same time tomorrow. I could have confronted her right then. Waved the phone in her face when she stumbled into the kitchen the next morning with pillow marks on her cheek and a headache blooming in her eyes. But I didn't. I told myself I needed more. Proof. Clarity. Something solid I could lean on, because right then, all I had was a feeling, and feelings can lie. Why did I ask her casually over eggs and burnt toast? She laughed. Actually laughed. Said she'd gone out with Sarah and Monica from work. Apparently, tequila shots were involved. It got a little out of hand, she said, brushing her fingers through her tangled hair. I barely remember getting home. Must have been some night, I said. She looked up, gave me that half smile she always used to use when she knew I was poking at something. But there was something behind her eyes I hadn't seen before. Hesitation, maybe. Or guilt. She didn't ask why I was asking. Didn't wonder how I knew. She just moved on, started scrolling her phone like nothing happened. That bothered me more than the message. Later that day, I sat in my car outside her office. I hadn't planned to. I'd been nearby for a meeting and, on impulse, turned into her parking garage instead of heading home. I watched the revolving door for 20 minutes. She didn't come out. I told myself I wasn't spying. I was just checking in, making sense of things. When I got home, she wasn't there yet. Said she was catching up on work. Again. I made dinner, half-heartedly, and went to grab something from her purse. Her keys, maybe. I don't even remember now. That's when I saw it. A bar napkin, crumpled and shoved into the side pocket of her bag. It was stained with something red, lipstick or wine, I couldn't tell, and written across it in slanted, masculine handwriting. To the most attractive drunk I know. No name, no number, just those words. I stood there holding it like it might burn me. Claire had told me she'd been in a client meeting. I stared at the napkin for a long time, not because I didn't understand what it meant. I understood perfectly well. But it's a strange thing, realizing your trust might have been misplaced. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in, like water through a crack in the ceiling. You don't notice until the damage is already spreading. I tucked the napkin back in her bag and zipped it shut, sat down at the kitchen table. The food was getting cold. I didn't touch it, just listened to the quiet and waited for her to come home. And when she finally did, smiling like nothing was wrong, I realized something else. She was already getting good at lying, and I was just getting started seeing the truth. It's funny how quickly a small seed of doubt grows once you stop pretending it's not there. After the napkin, I couldn't unsee what I'd seen or unfeel what it did to me. That one line, "to the sexiest drunk I know," started playing on repeat in my mind like a scratched record. Everything she said after that came with a filter, like I was translating her words into a language I no longer trusted. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's the thing people don't tell you about betrayal. It's not always rage that hits you first. It's confusion, a quiet kind of devastation. You want to be wrong so badly that you start questioning your own instincts. I wanted proof. Real, undeniable proof. Something I couldn't explain away as coincidence or paranoia. So I started watching her. Not in a dramatic, movie-style way. No trench coat or binoculars. Just paying attention. Little things. Like how she started dressing differently when she went out. Heels she hadn't worn in years. That cherry red lipstick she'd sworn off back in 2020. She'd spritz herself with perfume at the door. "Just a client dinner," she'd say. I'd nod, watching the back of her neck as she left, the way she walked a little lighter than usual. Like she was walking towards something. Or someone. The client dinners became more frequent. 3 nights one week. For the next. Always coming home late, stumbling just a little, eyes glassy, her voice too loud when she tried to be casual. She'd talk about meetings that didn't exist, drop names I knew weren't part of her projects. I checked a few of them. She must have forgotten I used to help her prep for pitches. Those weren't real clients. And still I waited, held it all in like a man clutching broken glass, too proud to show the blood. Then came a night I followed her. She said she had a meeting downtown. "Shouldn't be long," she added, grabbing her coat and kissing me on the cheek like we were still who we used to be. I smiled back, told her to drive safe. And then I waited, gave her a 10-minute head start, just enough to settle into whatever lie she was spinning. I didn't even think about it. Just grabbed my keys and went. My heart was pounding harder than I expected, like my body already knew what my mind was still trying to deny. She didn't head downtown. Instead, she drove out toward the east side, the part of town with flickering neon signs and parking lots full of cracked asphalt. She pulled into a little dive bar I'd passed 100 times, but never once stepped inside. I parked across the street, turned off my headlights, and waited. Through the smudged front window, I saw her almost immediately. She was at the bar, laughing. Not the polite corporate laugh I'd seen at holiday parties. This was different. Her head thrown back, her whole body in it. Like she was alive in a way she hadn't been in our kitchen for months. And she wasn't alone. There was a guy next to her. Mid-30s, maybe. Button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, like he wanted to look relaxed without trying too hard. His arm brushed against hers. She didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned closer. They ordered shots, slammed them down like teenagers. Her hand rested on his thigh for a moment, long enough that it didn't feel accidental. She whispered something in his ear, and he grinned. Then she kissed him. It was messy, desperate, the kind of kiss that doesn't leave room for doubt. I don't remember pulling out my phone, but I must have, because the pictures were there later. Blurry, dark, but clear enough. Her hand on his neck, his mouth on hers. The two of them fused together under the red glow of the bar sign, like some ugly painting you can't look away from. I sat in the car afterward, not crying, not yelling, just still, like something had hollowed me out. That moment stretched for what felt like hours. Eventually, they stumbled out together, laughing again. She tripped on the curb, and he caught her. They didn't see me. I stayed in the shadows. They drove off in separate cars, which surprised me. For a moment, I thought maybe it wasn't as serious as I feared. Maybe it was just a stupid, drunken mistake. But then again, you don't get to that kind of intimacy on accident. I drove home in silence. No radio. Just the sound of my breath, shallow and tight in my chest. I felt like I'd been underwater for weeks and had finally broken the surface, only to find the air poisoned. And then my phone buzzed. Voicemail. From Jen, Claire's coworker. Hey, she said, her voice cheerful, oblivious. You left your scarf at Mike's place last night. God, you were so wasted. Hope you're okay after that fight with him. She paused. Oh, wait. This isn't Claire's number, is it? Oh, crap. Sorry, ignore this. Click. I pulled over, hand trembling as I set the phone down on the passenger seat. Mike's place. Last night. A fight. She hadn't said anything about a fight, and she sure as hell didn't mention being at someone's house. It was confirmation from someone who had no idea she was confirming anything. And that was the moment. That was when the quiet part inside me gave way. I sat there gripping the steering, like it was the only thing holding me together. I wasn't just suspicious anymore. I wasn't imagining it. It wasn't some dramatic misunderstanding or a one-time lapse in judgment. It was real. She was cheating, lying to my face, slipping into another life while I sat home folding the laundry and wondering if I was overthinking things. It's a strange, humiliating kind of clarity. I didn't go inside right away when I got home. I sat on the porch in the dark for a long time, listening to the wind. The photos were still on my phone. The voicemail, too. Evidence. Undeniable. I had what I needed. But the question now wasn't whether it was happening. The question was what I was going to do about it. I had the truth clenched tight in my hand like broken glass. And now came the part where I had to decide whether to bleed or let go. There's a strange calm that settles in once the truth is undeniable. I'd spent weeks tied in knots, caught between suspicion and hope, but now that I knew, really knew, I felt still. Not peaceful, just still. Like the silence that comes after a storm flattens everything. There's nothing left to guess at. Only decisions to be made. I didn't yell. I didn't punch a wall or throw a chair or do any of the things men are supposed to do when they're betrayed in the movies. I just cleaned the kitchen, made a pot of coffee I didn't drink, and laid the photos on the table one by one. Evidence. That's what it felt like. Like I was preparing for trial, and the defendant was someone I used to love. The voicemail from Jen sat ready on my phone, queued up and waiting. I didn't have a plan beyond that. Only that tonight, when she walked through the door, it was all going to come out. I was done pretending. She came home at 2:07 a.m. I watched the clock tick past midnight, then 1, then 2, each minute thudding like a hammer in my chest. Where her headlights finally swung across the living room curtains, I didn't move. Just waited, my hands folded, the kitchen light casting a pale ring around the table. She stumbled in, keys clattering against the floor as she kicked the door shut behind her. Her lipstick was smeared, a fading crimson halo around her mouth. Her blouse was buttoned crooked, one side slipping off her shoulder. She didn't even notice me at first. Then she looked up and froze. There was no warm welcome. No, hey babe, or explanation about a late meeting. Just silence. And the sight of her husband sitting at the table like a man who'd read the last page of a book and finally understood the whole damn story. I didn't say hello. I didn't ask how her night went. I just pointed at the photos. Her eyes darted between them, registering each one. Her laughing in the bar, her hand on his leg, that sloppy kiss beneath the neon sign. She blinked, trying to piece together a lie fast enough to outpace the truth. "Who's Mike?" I asked. She hesitated. That was her first mistake. Not denying it right away, just hesitating. Then she laughed, too loud, too forced, and said, "Mike? He's just a friend. We ran into each other. You're overreacting. Overreacting." It's amazing how that word, of all things, can spark something sharper than rage. I didn't speak, just reached for my phone and tapped play. Jen's voice filled the kitchen. "Hey, you left your scarf at Mike's place last night. God, you were so wasted. Hope you're okay after that fight with him." Claire's face drained of color. She sat down hard in the chair across from me, her hands trembling. That's when she broke, just shattered like glass under pressure. She sobbed in her palms, shaking, mascara running, mumbling apologies I couldn't fully make out. She admitted it, all of it, that it had been going on for months, that she didn't even know how it started. "It just happened," she said. "I'd have a drink after work, and then one turned into three, and Mike was just there. There. Like an open door, she walked through without thinking." I asked her why. I needed to hear it, even if it hurt. She looked at me with wet, glassy eyes and said, "I don't know. I felt numb. And when I drank, I didn't feel anything. He made me feel something." She paused. "I'm not saying that makes it okay. It didn't. And she knew that. But I appreciated, in some cold way, that she didn't try to blame me. She didn't spin it into some tale of neglect or marital drift. She owned the chaos, even as it spilled out of her. Still, I didn't say much. Just listened. That quiet stillness hadn't left me yet. I wasn't ready to yell or cry or walk out. Not yet. I was too busy trying to understand how we got here, how the woman I married ended up in a stranger's bed, and why I hadn't seen it coming until it was too late. Then, just as I was about to get up and walk away, she said something that hit harder than any of it. She grabbed my arm, tight, desperate, and looked me dead in the eyes. "I think I caught something from him," she said. "I need you to take me to the doctor tomorrow." The words landed like a punch to the ribs. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It wasn't just lies and drinking and nights spent in parking lots with a camera app open. This had turned into something physical, tangible, a risk not just to her, but to me, to both of us. She had dragged me into her mess in the most literal sense. I pulled my arm away, not violently, just enough to say no, enough to make it clear I was done being a participant in this train wreck. She kept crying. I didn't. I just stood there, staring at her, realizing I didn't even recognize her anymore. Not the way she looked, not the way she sounded, not the woman who once fell asleep on my chest during Sunday movies or left sticky notes in my lunchbox with little hearts on them. That woman was gone, and in her place was someone I couldn't save. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I took a blanket and crashed on the couch. Not a spite, just necessity. I needed space. I needed distance. The photos were still on the table in the morning, the light hitting them like evidence at a crime scene. And I knew, as the sun crept through the windows, that nothing would ever be the same again. That night, I learned there are betrayals of the body, betrayals of the heart, and then there are the ones that make you book a doctor's appointment at sunrise. People talk about rock bottom like it's a single moment, a point on a timeline. But for me, it was slower, more like a quiet erosion, a steady crumbling until there was nothing left to hold on to. That morning, with Claire curled up in our bed, hung over, oblivious, I stood in the kitchen, hands wrapped around a cold cup of coffee, and realized I was done. Not angry, not shouting, just finished. I looked around our home, the one we'd built together, the family photos lining the hallway, the couch she cried on 2 nights ago, the pile of unopened mail on the counter. It all felt like a museum now, exhibits a life we used to have, and I was the lone visitor walking through it for the last time. While she slept off whatever was left in her bloodstream, I made a call. Quietly. No drama. Just a clear, firm voice on the other end of the line. "Family law," the receptionist said. I took a breath. "I need to file for divorce." The lawyer didn't ask for details at first. Just set up a consultation for later that week. But something about saying the word divorce out loud to a stranger made it real. Final, like pushing the first domino and watching the rest line up to fall. Next, I went online and froze her joint accounts. Not out of spite, but protection. We'd worked hard for that money. Years of budgeting, saving, skipping vacations when work was tight. I wasn't about to watch it all vanish in a bar tabs or, God knows, another man's rent. I moved what I could into a separate account and left just enough for bills. Fair, but not foolish. I also scheduled the test at the clinic. That part was harder than I expected. Sitting in a sterile room, answering questions from a nurse with kind eyes and no judgment in her voice. I told her what I needed, signed the forms, and waited under buzzing fluorescent lights. When the results came back clean a few days later, I felt relief. But it was a cold kind. The kind that doesn't warm you, just stops the bleeding. Claire didn't know any of this yet. She woke up around noon, bleary-eyed, wrapped in the old flannel blanket we used to take camping. She walked into the kitchen like nothing had happened. Asked if we had coffee. I didn't answer. Later that night, she found out about the accounts. I'd just gotten out of the shower when I heard her yelling from the living room. At first, I didn't even respond. I dried off slowly, took my time getting dressed. By the time I came out, she was pacing in circles, phone in one hand, bank statement in the other. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Why would you do this?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I just looked at her and said, "Because I don't trust you anymore." Something about that hit her harder than anything else I could have said. She broke, dropped to her knees, literally, right there on the rug we picked out in Charleston. Tears streaming down her cheeks, voice cracked wide open. "Please," she said, "please don't leave me. I'll fix it. I swear. I'll stop drinking, I'll go to therapy, I'll never talk to him again. Just don't give up on me." She crawled forward, clutching at my legs like I was the last piece of driftwood in the ocean. "I love you," she said. "I was stupid. I was lost. But I love you." Her breath still smelled faintly of gin. And I just stood there, watching this woman I once thought I'd grow old with, reduced to sobbing on the floor, begging for a second chance she'd already thrown away a dozen times over. There was a flicker of something inside me then. Not love, not even pity, just the ghost of what used to be. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to rewind the tape, erase the voicemail, delete the photos, pretend this was salvageable. But that part of me was shrinking. Before I could speak, before I could even decide whether I was going to speak, my phone rang. I checked the screen. A number I didn't recognize. I picked up. "Is this Claire's husband?" a woman asked. "Yes," I said, guarded. "This is going to sound weird, but my name's Hannah. I was Mike's girlfriend." I felt the floor shift under me. She sighed. "Look, I know this is awkward, but I just found your wife's underwear in his apartment, in his bed, and when I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. Said she'd been staying there some nights, planning to move in." My chest tightened. She wasn't just cheating. She was leaving, planning a new life with him, playing both sides until she had a soft landing. Probably waiting until I was too worn down to fight, or too numb to care. Then Hannah said, almost bitterly, "And the kicker? I dumped him tonight because he cheated on me, too, with some bartender. Your wife wasn't the only one." I thanked her, somehow, though the words caught in my throat. When I hung up, Claire was still on the floor, crying. I looked down at her and finally understood. She hadn't come back because she loved me. She'd come back because the escape hatch had closed, because the man she threw everything away for had done to her what she did to me. She was crawling back, not to us, but to safety, to familiarity, to the man she thought would always be there to catch her. But I was done catching her, and as I walked past her to the bedroom, that stillness came back. Not anger, not heartbreak, just clarity. She thought I was the backup plan, but when the dust finally settled, I was already gone, and she was the one left trying to read the fine print of her own disaster. She left the house the next day. Not quietly, not gracefully, not the way you hope people do when the damage is done and all that's left is decency. No, Claire left in a storm, suitcase in one hand, venom in the other. She screamed that I'd regret this, that I was throwing away something real, something worth saving. She said it wasn't over, but it was. The door clicked shut behind her, and I stood there alone in the entryway, surrounded by silence that finally felt like peace. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled, the kind of breath you take after holding it for far too long. In the weeks that followed, I began peeling my life away from hers. It's harder than you'd think, undoing a marriage. Not just the legal part, though that was ugly enough. The divorce took months. Court dates, paperwork, mediators who spoke in dull tones like they weren't slicing up years of someone's life. She fought for things she didn't even want, just to spite me. But I held the line. I wasn't giving up more than I already had. The emotional untangling, that was the real battle. I found reminders of her everywhere. A hairband on the nightstand. Her handwriting on a grocery list in the drawer. A movie we used to love showing up in my streaming queue. At first, each one hit like a punch. But gradually, they lost their weight. The shadows faded. I sold a house. It was ours once, but I didn't want it anymore. Too many echoes in the walls. I packed what I needed, donated what I didn't, and left the rest behind. I want a fresh start. Not a renovation, a rebirth. I moved to a quiet coastal town a few hours south. Nothing dramatic, just far enough that the air smelled different, that I didn't bump into her friends at the grocery store. I found a little place 2 blocks from the beach, with creaky floorboards and sunlight that poured through the windows in the morning like it meant it. I furnished it slowly, intentionally. Everything in it was mine, picked by me for me. I threw myself into work, not to bury the pain, but to steady myself. I took on more projects, ones that challenged me. I started running again, early mornings before the heat rolled in, my shoes pounding against the boardwalk like a metronome. With each mile, something loosened inside me. Something healed. And then, without looking for it, I met someone new. Her name was Rachel. We crossed paths at a bookstore of all places, both reaching for the same worn copy of East of Eden. We laughed and it felt easy. There was no pretense, no game, just 2 people talking like the world hadn't broken either of them too badly. She didn't need a bottle to smile. She didn't need chaos to feel alive. Being with her felt like breathing clean air after years in a smoke-filled room. We took things slow. She knew my story. I didn't hide it. I told her what had happened, not to scare her off, but because I owed her honesty. She listened without flinching. She told me her story, too. And somewhere in the overlap, we found something honest. A year passed. It wasn't perfect. There were bad days. Lonely ones. Times I still heard Claire's voice in the back of my head, or found myself flinching at small things that reminded me of how I once got burned. But the grip those memories had on me loosened with time. I wasn't stuck anymore. I was moving. Then, one weekend in late spring, I attended a friend's wedding. A beach ceremony, breezy and golden. The kind of day where everything feels touched by sunlight. Rachel was with me, her hand warm in mine, her laughter drifting on the wind like music. And then I saw her, Claire, standing alone at the edge of the crowd, thinner than I remembered. Her hair pulled back, dark circles under her eyes. She looked hollow, like something important had leaked out and never come back. She spotted me and hesitated, then walked over slowly. "Hi," she said, her voice small. "You look good." I nodded. "Thanks." She stood there, searching my face. "I'm sorry," she said, "for everything." I looked at her for a long moment, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger, or longing, or loss, just distance, like watching a movie you used to love, but can't quite remember why. "I hope you're okay," I said. She nodded, eyes glossy, and I turned and walked away, back to the dance floor, back to the woman who had taught me what quiet joy looked like. Rachel leaned in, her voice soft in my ear. I didn't want to interrupt, but "I overheard something," she said. "Claire was talking to someone. She said she's pregnant. Mike's. And apparently, he's gone. Disappeared on her." I felt a pang, deep and fleeting. Then I let it go. That wasn't my story anymore. Mine was the ocean breeze, the warmth of a hand I trusted, the sound of laughter without weight behind it. I had walked through fire, yes, but I'd come out the other side. Not untouched, but unbroken. And that was enough.